Alrighty, you have made it to equivalent expressions, which is lesson 6.07. And 6.07 is talking about equivalent expressions, and it's an assignment. So we're going to go through the instructions really quick and make sure you understand what to do for the assignment. So let's first take a look at this word problem that they gave us. It says Sarah's neighbor offers to pay her $5 for every shark tooth she finds on the beach. So we're at the beach. Sarah's at the beach. She's trying to collect shark teeth. Remember, this is a shark tooth right there. And she says, okay, well, after collecting only 3 shark's teeth, Sarah decides to share the opportunity with her friend John. Sarah can find shark teeth twice as fast as John, but she can earn even more money with his help. Sarah can use the expression 5 times 2j plus 3 plus j to represent the amount of money she can earn. So let's dissect this and just make sure you understand what the word problem means and compare it to this. So this is what we have. We have our parentheses, which represents how many shark teeth we can get. Now, if we look at our parentheses, we see the 2j, and then we see a plus 3, and then plus j. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. Sarah is collecting shark teeth, but she asked John to help. And so J in this problem represents the shark teeth that John collects. So these are the shark teeth that John collects. So if we look at our problem, what we see is that J represents our shark teeth that John collects. 2J represents really Sarah, because Sarah can collect twice as many as John. So the 2J is really saying this is what Sarah's collecting. And we know that she already collected 3. That's what she started with. So 3 doesn't need a variable because that's what she's already started with. So she started with her 3. And she's faster. She's twice as fast as John. So this is her expression that represents Sarah. And then J is just John collecting. Now, if we were to add up all of our shark teeth, so this gives us our total shark teeth. If we were to add all of these up, which we can't right now because there's variables, but if we were, we could multiply it by 5 because 5 represents our money. And that would tell us how much money that Sarah would make. So that's really what it means. That's what that expression means when we're dissecting it. So let's see, what do we need to do for this project? Well, this project or this assignment says that we need to write an expression that looks like Sarah's expression. We want to replace the coefficients so that your answer is not equivalent. So remember, coefficients, well, let's keep reading. You may use any number that you choose to replace the coefficients. Be sure to leave the variables the same. And they give us an example. So remember, a coefficient is the number that's in front of a variable. Looks like they also want us to change the constants. So we're just going to change every single number we see. So let me give you an example of what I would do for number 1. Do not copy mine, I'll know, but you can just get an idea. So like, what if I said I had a 2, I had a 1j, plus 4, plus 3j. Let's say that was my expression. So that would be my answer to number 1. I would write in a complete sentence, my expression is, and then I would write that. Now look at number 2. 2 says translate the algebraic expression you created to a verbal expression. So we're writing out a sentence to explain what this means. So I would put, in terms of mine, I'm using mine as a reference, I would say 2 times, 2's outside the parentheses, 2 times the sum. Remember, sum means to add. So I'm going to add, so 2 times the sum of 1j, or just j, 1j is the same of j, and 4, and 3 times j, or the product of 3 and j. Now remember, there's a lot of different ways to write this, but the idea is that you write it as a verbal expression. Now part 2 says you will now use mathematical properties to create two expressions that are equivalent to the expression you created in question 1. Make sure you show all your steps in your work. So what would that look like? So when I'm looking at that, I have to create those two expressions. It tells me I can use the commutative property, or I could combine like terms to create an equivalent expression. And then I can use distributive property. So let's see what that looks like. So my expression, remember, was 2j plus 4 plus 3j. Now, one expression that would be equivalent to that would be if I were to combine like terms. And combining like terms means that I have this j and this j that I can actually put together. And when I put those together, I get 2 on my outside. And this is like a 1, so I get 1 plus 3, which is 4j. I have 4j plus 4. This is an equivalent expression to what I started with because I combined like terms. And combining like terms means finding everything with the same variable and adding the numbers in front. So that's one way I could do it. It also says I can use the distributive property. So if I use the distributive property, remember the distributive property says take whatever's outside your parentheses, which I'll go back to my original here, and multiply it by everything inside. So what does that mean? Well, that means I do 2 times 1j. Let me write it here so I have more room. So the distributive property tells me I'm multiplying, whoops, not an I, a j, and I take my 2 and I say, well, what's 2 times 1? And it's 2, and then I just attach my j. And then I do, okay, well, what's 2 times 4? And I get 8, so I put plus 8 because it's positive 8. And then I do 2 times 3j, so 2 times 3, which is 6, and then I attach my j. So my answer for my distributive property would be this. So for part 1 of part 2, number 1, I'm sorry, you have 3 expressions that are equal. You have your distributive property one, which is here. You have the one that you started with, which is here. And then I had the one where I combined like terms, which was here. This is where I combine like terms. So this would be my answer for number 1. Now, number 2 says pick a number from 1 to 10. Well, I'm lazy, so I would probably pick 1. Use the number to verify your 3 expressions are equivalent. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, that means that if I take a number, I'm going to replace everywhere I see a j with that number. So I'm going to write that here. Instead of a j, I would have 1 times 1. Plus 4, I'm just writing down what I see here. Plus 3, instead of a j, I'm going to do times 1. So when we do that, we do in the parentheses, 1 times 1 is 1, plus 4. 3 times 1 is 3. Then I'll bring down my 2. So I have 1 plus 4, which is 5. 5 plus 3, which is 8. And then I've got my 2. And remember, anytime this happens, I multiply, which gives me 16. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to plug in now. I'm going to plug in 1 to every single one of these expressions, wherever I see the j, and my answer should be 16 every single time. And that's what you would do for number 2. Now part 3 is really the creative part of this assignment. It says write a few sentences to end Sarah's story. So now we're going back to Sarah's story, not yours, and you're going to come up with a way that you can talk about the ending of the story. You can say something, for instance, that Sarah and John spent 5 more hours on the beach finding shark teeth, and John found 10, which means if Sarah doubled that, she found twice as much. She found 20, and she made this amount of money. So you want to be creative and read that story again from the first page, and then come up with a way. Create a PowerPoint, create a picture. You could do a video recording, and just share that with me. So this should be everything you need to start your assignment. Remember, you do get 3 chances to turn in an assignment and get feedback. So if you want to turn in an assignment as you're working for me to check it, feel free to do that. And then you can always use the feedback and resubmit that assignment. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck.